We never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
Cut day in the NFL. Big one. Yeah, that's what really is going to take up the catch and early buzz segment. Talk a lot about some of the cuts reactions. I also want to bring up this. Follow PFF_tailgate on Twitter because we have our Thursday trivia and mailbag episode tomorrow on Thursday. If you submit questions via the DMs on the PFF tailgate Twitter, you could have your question on Thursday trivia or in the mailbag questions. You can also leave questions on Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star review and drop a question in there. Those will be prioritized. What's next on tailgate? Oregon at Ohio State. We'll be there September 11th in Columbus. Going to be a feature-length film, Mike. Going to be just like Champaign was. Continuing the tailgate tour around the country. Let's start on catch an early buzz. The biggest cut, the biggest release, what dominated the news cycle today was Cam Newton released in New England. Mac Jones named the starter in New England. And they also released Brian Hoyer. So Mac Jones is the only quarterback in New England after Cam Newton and Brian Hoyer released.
Jaret Stidham.
Okay.
But he's hurt.
Only healthy quarterback.
He may actually be the starter, Jaret Stidham, according to everyone last year for the Patriots.
Shut up.
But I wasn't as surprised as everyone else on Twitter caking their pants. If you were listening, a fan of the show, you heard me say Mac Jones is going to be the starter week one. He was going to be the starter week one. He was that good, one. And he was your first round pick of quarterback, too. He was the future, / is the future, will be the future. However you want to put those together, conjugate that. But Cam Newton, it would not surprise me if the reason he is not there anymore is because he asked to not be there. The reports were last summer that he wanted a starting job or a place where he could compete for a starting job. Once that isn't the case, it wouldn't surprise me if he said, hey, I like playing football. I don't like holding a clipboard. I enjoy this. He's obviously made a ton of money throughout his career, did not sign with the Patriots for a lot of money. Probably not in it for the money at this point in his career. He wants to play and be that guy. And so it wouldn't surprise me at all if Cam Newton said, let me go pick a place where I can have an opportunity to be that guy. Because right now, after Mac Jones is named the starter, pretty much however much a rookie is going to struggle at the beginning of his career, you're going to have to eat it as a head coach. You're not going to all of a sudden put Cam Newton in. Mac Jones was going to be that guy.
Mac Jones, a 92.2 PFF grade in the preseason, was the second highest graded quarterback behind CJ Beathard, depending on how many dropbacks you asked for in that qualifying total. He obviously played a lot better than a lot of people expected. I'd say even better than maybe what Bill Belichick expected, so much that he earned the starting job. And that's why he's the starter. Now, why he was released is obviously some speculation. Was he asking for his release? But reporter Doug Kyde, a national reporter here at PFF, said multiple factors.
Former
Patriots beat writer.
Okay.
Former Patriots beat writer. These are the reasons. A couple factors in play with releasing Cam Newton rather than keeping him on the Patriots as a backup. His command of the locker room and his vaccination status. I tweeted out that, Mac Jones balled out and Cam Newton's unvaccinated. Balling out got him the starting job. Why Cam Newton is not a backup quarterback, I think, is somewhat affected by the fact that unvaccinated players, according to NFL policy, NFLPA policy, if a COVID outbreak happens with unvaccinated players, not vaccinated players, unvaccinated players, that leads to a cancellation of a game, you take the loss, none of your players get paid, you get fined heavily, and none of the players you were supposed to play get paid either. So I do think having a backup quarterback, where in the best case situation, the best case scenario for a backup quarterback is what? They play 0 snaps. If he's unvaccinated and risking those losses, I do think that wasn't maybe the majority factor or the bulk factor, but it did play a role in why he was released.
Yeah, I do think no matter your thoughts on vaccinations, should you get vaccinated, whatever, if you're a backup, you as a football coach, as a football roster, the way the NFLPA negotiated vaccination rules,
yes,
it behooves you as a head coach, as a GM, as a whatever, to, if a guy's not a starter, to not have a guy who is unvaccinated on your roster.
100%.
It just behooves you. That is what the NFLPA agreed to. And again, what if you think that's fair, unfair, whatever, that lives in your heart. That is the reality of this situation.
Throw your political or personal opinion of vaccinations and COVID-19 out the window. The game you're playing, the game how it was structured by the NFLPA, is that if you're unvaccinated, you could cost your team some L's, literally losses in financial and in the win-loss record. And to do that with a backup player would be a risk. And some people are like, oh, why does Kirk Cousins still have a job? Why do these other two players? Because Kirk Cousins is a starter and he costs $35 million against the cap. That's why Cam Newton would be a backup in this situation, likely panned for or stood for his release, wanted to be released if he wasn't going to be a backup, and obviously the vaccination status. So I do think that's kind of what the speculation is, and some of the reporting is that his command of the locker room, which you could say whatever about that. I kind of a backup quarterback can't have command of the locker room or likability. That's bullshit. That's bad culture. I do think more of it is the vaccination status, but also the fact that he didn't earn the starting job. All right. Off of that and on to another wild release. Des Fitzpatrick, former Louisville wide receiver, ranked outside the top 300 on PFF's final draft board. The number 212 player on the athletic consensus board was picked at 109. They traded up. They traded 3 picks to move up 17 spots in the 4th round. The Tennessee Titans to draft Des Fitzpatrick. Has an underwhelming preseason, struggles to see the field, and is outright released. Now, if you are pointing any single finger or toe at Des Fitzpatrick, you are out of your mind. He did not bust. The Titans set unreal expectations for a player that obviously, by PFF standard, by consensus standards, was not worth the number 109 pick.
Yeah. There's a few different things at play here. One, 109 is not out of character. Like, this isn't absurdly high for a guy to get cut his rookie season. 4th rounders, that
100%.
There guys get cut much higher than that. What was it? Ja'Kai Polite was like a top 75 player, got cut his rookie preseason. So this isn't an absurd cut, but I do think sort of at the time with the trade up, it kind of skewed what we know about wide receivers. Yeah, you can find them, but 2nd, 3rd round, and there's not a lot of. You just look at history of a wide receiver position on day 3, which is obviously pick 109, where they got him at. It's not that good for guys drafted that late in a wide receiver class. The amount that turned into number 1 wide receivers, it's like Brandon Marshall. You got Julian Edelman, who was a rare case, obviously, because he was not even a wide receiver in college. You got Wes Welker. You have guys like that. There's just not a lot of wide receivers. Much other positions like O-line, secondary. You can find a lot more on that in that portion of the draft. So to give up what they did at the time for whoever it was, and we panned the Texans for giving up all that draft capital for, the Michigan wide receiver whose name's escaping me at the moment. But just giving up that much draft capital for a wide receiver at that point in the draft is usually not a good idea.
I do think it's not just the 109 pick. You spent a total of 4 selections on Des Fitzpatrick. You showed you were very confident in the player, very confident in your evaluation. So much that, dare I say it, overconfident in your evaluation of Des Fitzpatrick, and it didn't pan out. And I don't think anyone's to blame but the Tennessee Titans and that decision. It's not Des Fitzpatrick that failed to meet high expectations, but maybe he was never positioned to be that highly drafted of a player. Moving forward, Ardarius Washington and Geno Stone, some positive news here. Former top 60 players on PFF draft boards in 2021. Ardarius Washington, I think, was inside the top 55, and Geno Stone was somewhere similar. They both make the Baltimore Ravens team.
Oh, I feel like a proud father. My boys, my guys at safety that obviously the NFL did not see similarly, but now are on rosters. And that's not everyone does. And not everyone makes a roster, as we just talked about with Des Fitzpatrick. Not every top 110 pick makes a roster. Those guys did. And again, I was saying it from the moment he didn't get drafted and went to the Baltimore Ravens, a perfect spot for him to excel. So glad to see I'm not completely terrible at my job sometimes.
Love that. You honestly love to see that. Yeah. Travis Fulgham released in Philadelphia. I think a lot of Eagles beat writers upset over that, especially after the season he had in 2020. Not the season, the spark.
Yeah, the game.
Yeah, the game or 2 or 3 week stretch where a lot of people were talking Travis Fulgham. I think most of that being the DFS community. He gets released from Philly, and what is already not, I wouldn't call a star-studded receiving core. It's a lot of unproven talent. Devontae Smith, obviously the best talent there. And J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, your guy out of Stanford, hangs on, still in Philly.
I mean, Fulham had 539 yards in 13 games. Like, it was obviously more than J.J. Arcega-Whiteside has had in his entire NFL career. But to be acting as if Fulham is this like, oh man, it's like solid number 2 or quality starter that they just cut out of the blue, which it just wasn't the case. It was the fact that the Eagles roster last year was so inept in a number of different ways. Not only talent-wise, but also just sort of that offense as a whole and the quarterback position there. So this one, I wouldn't be like upset if I'm an Eagles.
Up in arms.
You know, up in arms. There you go.
Where would you rank this receiving core right now in Philly? Devontae Smith, Jalen Reagor, your guy, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. I'd include Goddard and Ertz in that conversation.
Okay.
Don't have to do it an exact number, but is it top 15, top 20, top 25?
I'd say it's somewhere in the neighborhood of around 20th in the NFL.
Gotcha.
It's a lot better. That's me being high on Devontae Smith's talent, too.
Ben Bredeson traded, Baltimore Ravens traded him. That's when you know your offensive line depth is good.
Yeah.
Because he played
fourth rounder last year who was fairly solid this preseason.
Yeah, fairly solid this preseason. Fourth rounder last year. Traded to, I don't have the trade in front of me. Traded to the Giants, right?
Yes, traded to the Giants. I believe it was like a 6th.
Yeah.
I would like to say. But this was an interesting thing I wanted to bring up from just a pure scouting perspective and how difficult this is. Ben Bredeson on the same offensive line, same starter on that offensive line, Michigan offensive line, at the exact same position for multiple years as Michael Onwenu. Bredeson left guard, Onwenu right guard. Ravens picking between the two in the 4th round, 143 overall. They go Ben Bredeson. When Onwenu would also have fit their scheme. A 350-pounder in that scheme would almost be helpful. You would prefer the bigger offensive lineman. That's the way they've trended, drafting guys like Orlando Brown, who they have over the years. Onwenu goes almost 40 picks later, 182 overall. Onwenu is immediately one of the best offensive linemen in the NFL. Ben Bredeson now just gets traded for pennies on the dollar. That tells you how fucking hard scouting is. The fact that you can watch 2 guys on the exact same offensive line in the exact same scheme and come away saying this guy is the better one for the NFL when day one, the other guy was objectively not only better, much, much better. And it's just an interesting sort of conversation of this shit's hard.
Is that pure? I'm going to push there a little bit. Is that pure evaluating the two side by side and failing to recognize that Onwenu's better? Or how much of that is also just resources allocated to each player, specific scouts? I think there's a lot of factors in that. I think it's like
everyone had Bredeson over Onwenu. You would be hard pressed outside of us, PFF, who had Onwenu over Bredeson. You would be hard pressed to find a lot of people who had Onwenu over Bredeson.
So maybe is that groupthink? Groupthink kind of costing people there.
I don't know. I'm just saying, like, Onwenu also improved a lot. Like, he was a much different player and a much better player as soon as he got to New England, and he lost weight from his career at Michigan to then playing in New England, and that can factor in too how players' dedication, how their bodies develop, that sort of thing is something that we don't get kind of behind the scenes access to at PFF. We don't get access to these strength coaches being like, how much weight can this guy lose? How much strength can this guy add? What's his body fat? We don't have those numbers. NFL teams do. But I just wanted to highlight it as kind of like a test case for how difficult this can be and how it is a crapshoot at a lot of different levels.
I think what makes it a crapshoot, I think I always kind of push on draft theory and why things are the way they are. I think what makes it a crapshoot is some levels of groupthink, some people forcing, like some people's decision making, being like, hey, I make the final decision. I like this guy. And we've seen time and time again, if you're just one person, it's very difficult as one person to be consistently accurate compared to obviously the consensus and stuff like that. But either way, moving forward, I think it speaks, like I said, it kind of speaks to what the Ravens have from a depth perspective, looking at their offensive line. Ronnie Stanley, now you have to think Ben Cleveland, I think, is on the NFI list, but still could be an option there when he gets back healthy. They have Ben Powers, Patrick McCarry, all depth players, and then starters Bozeman, Zietler, Alejandro Villanueva. The interior looking pretty deep in Baltimore. Moving to John Brown. John Brown, the veteran, signed with the Las Vegas Raiders. I remember us calling that a budget free agent signing. Interesting that he didn't pan out. I think that speaks to how much they have faith in Henry Ruggs actually filling that role in their offense from this season. Also, obviously, the Terrell Owens, Randy Moss hybrid, the training camp phenom, Brian Edwards, second-year player, third-round pick out of South Carolina. Those are going to be their starters. And Hunter Renfrow in the slot. It's a very young receiving core. I think the only known quantity there is Hunter Renfrow, and even his ceiling isn't particularly high. John Brown released from the Raiders. Your reaction?
Yeah, I'm obviously surprised. I thought he still had some good years left in him, but I would say it's probably because he's kind of, I won't say
redundant
at this point, but I think he's probably lost a step. He was injured throughout last year with the Bills. He might not just be the guy that the smoke that we've come to know. When you lose a step as a speed receiver and you can't stack that wide on the outside, all of a sudden, or that cornerback on the outside, all of a sudden that can go from you quickly. That's sort of your calling card.
Only 32 preseason snaps played with the Las Vegas Raiders. I think you only had 3 targets, 1 reception, 2 yards. Not enough to stick around in Las Vegas. Last one here before we jump to the other segments. The pup update, the pup date, the Paw Patrol, Patrol. I don't know. David Bakhtiari, Green Bay Packers left tackle, Michael Thomas, the New Orleans Saints wide receiver, and Stephon Gilmore, the cornerback for the New England Patriots, all stars at their position, I'd argue. Starting the season on the pup, that means they will miss at least the first 6 weeks of the season. At least the first 6 weeks of the season.
To me, the biggest one here, I think the Packers can get around it. Elgton Jenkins is a stud. He's going to kick out to left tackle. I don't think that's going to be a massive issue.
What's that interior look like? Can we pause there? What does that interior look like with Elgton Jenkins moved out to left tackle?
So it's probably going to be Lucas Patrick and all of a sudden breakout star Royce Newman. I
said that weird.
At guard. And then Josh Myers, the rookie at center. Right tackle, going to be Billy Turner. So not as good as it was last year, obviously.
With Lindsey gone.
But that still it's still not a liability offensive line, I will say. That is a serviceable, and especially with the way the Packers have started running their offense, where they're not putting their tackles on islands quite as much as Mike McCarthy was. That they're serviceable. They're going to be fine with that. The one here that I think is very impactful that I'd be worried about is Michael Thomas. New Orleans. Jameis Winston, God love him, throws with anticipation as much, if not more than almost any quarterback in the NFL. That guy will throw before wide receivers breaks left and right. When you do that, though, your wide receivers got to win. So when he's in Tampa and you got a Mike Evans, you got a Chris Godwin, you can put up 5,000 yards. You can put up stats because his wide receivers are winning. When you're at Florida State and you have this talent advantage, you can do that. But you can't do that to a Marquez Callaway. And Marquez Callaway, great preseason. Going up against top wide receiver cornerbacks, are we still going to trust Marquez Callaway to produce the way he did? Are we going to trust Traquan Smith to produce that?
Deontay Harris?
Like, they don't have talent at wide receiver. They are one of the most barren. We talked about the Eagles wide receiving core. Right now, the Saints are a far worse wide receiving core than what the Eagles are about to throw out there. So that, to me, is worrisome for the Saints here first 6 weeks without a go-to guy for Jameis Winston.
Yeah, that starting lineup is going to look like Marquez Callaway, Deontay Harris, Traquan Smith. Maybe you see Lil Jordan Humphrey fit in there. I don't even know if he might have got a cut. I mean, this is a tough receiving core for Jameis to work with. And as good as those two throws to Marquez Callaway looked, it's not a big enough sample size to feel all that confident in him stepping in and replacing Michael Thomas's consistency. And also, like, I think you brought up the anticipation standpoint. I'm trying to look for the word here, not consistency, but like, there's a level of expectedness with he's going to run the right routes and do those things. He's the confidence that you'll have in Michael Thomas. Gilmore obviously did not have the season that many expected from him in 2020. I think he ranked inside the top 5 in PFF grade in 2019 and 2018. How much of a loss is this? Now them starting J.C. Jackson and Jalen Mills at outside corner.
They got deep secondary, though. You got Jonathan Jones there as well in your secondary. Like, you have bodies to throw out there at corner. You're not nearly as screwed. But it's obviously Stephon Gilmore is the guy, though. He still is that dude in that secondary. So it is impactful. But like I said, the biggest one here, Michael Thomas to me.
Go to PFF.com. Check out our cuts tracker. We also have a handful of articles up on these players going on the pup. You can also use promo code KICKOFF30 for 30% off any PFF subscription. That helps you with fantasy football, getting the grades, the stats, all that stuff we speak to. Go to PFF.com, subscribe, support Mike and myself. You can also go to, I didn't bring this up, PFF Tailgate merch.
It's live.
Shop.pff.com.
Oh, yeah.
Go get yourself some tailgate merch. I'm donating $3 to St. Jude's Children's Hospital for research. Every single item purchased, we've already had over $500,000. No. Hey. That would have been pretty sick. $500 in merch purchases so far. Definitely go to pff.shop or shop.pff.com to buy some tailgate merch. Docs, next here, we are going to look at the All-Rookie Preseason team. This is an article that comes out today. Actually, if you're listening to this, you probably already have it on PFF.com. I'm going to go position by position here, looking at the best rookies in the 2021 NFL preseason. Can we couch this with that? Doesn't mean these players are going to be good. Like, this is just like, hey, these guys played well, and there's some positive sides.
Okay, yeah, it's one of these things. this is not saying they're going to be great. But if you had to choose, you would rather the guy be on this list. You know, like just in terms of like pure odds, you'd rather the guy be playing well right now. If you're going to be.
There's a reason. There's more reason for optimism as a fan or as a proponent of a player for them playing well than not playing well. But there isn't as high of a percentage or as much.
The correlation is not nearly as strong as it would be like for a regular season or.
But I would also argue that the percent of optimism or the number, how much optimism you have after this should not mirror how much negative or pessimism you have if a player plays poorly. I think it's obviously more for positive. I don't know if I said that right. That was kind of confusing. All right.
Yeah, I had no clue what that meant, but go
ahead. 2 New England Patriots start the list here. Mac Jones, we've already talked about a decent amount, has played really well this preseason, but also running back Ramondre Stevenson, who I want to bring this up. His running backs coach, I don't remember who it was. Ivan Fears, I believe, for the Patriots. They asked him, what does Ramondre have to do to prove himself? He said, everything. Or where does he need to improve? And he did. I mean, he came in, I think, out of shape and improved as the preseason progressed. And honestly, was one of the more impressive, if not the most impressive running back of any, even non-rookies this preseason.
He was dominant. Now, he didn't run with the ones, but 13 broken tackles on 30 carries is good no matter how you slice it. Now, he also had a fumble, which I'm going to go out on a limb and say Bill Belichick's not a big fan of fumbles. It's probably going to get you in his doghouse real quick. He had 3 fumbles on just over 160 carries in his college career. So that's enough for me to raise a little, hey, red flag. He might have a little fumbling. That's something that you got to watch out for. It might cost him some PT. But dude, on the ground, he looked like what you want in a power back.
This Patriots backfield, from a fantasy perspective, I know has drawn a lot of spotlight, especially after the trade of Sony Michel. But now they have Damian Harris, James White, Ramondre Stevenson, and J.J. Taylor, who I saw lately was expected to make the 53, and then obviously the fullback Jacob Johnson.
Because we're going to get to him a little later.
Oh, we're going to get to him later? I'm excited for that. Yeah. But Damian Harris, I think, is the lead back, quote-unquote lead back, but this is going to be such a hodgepodge of touches that I don't expect any of them to have more than 50 or even 60% of the offensive snaps when it's all said and done.
Good word, hodgepodge.
Hodgepodge, you like that?
Yeah.
You like this? Wide receiver Terrace Marshall, the other all-rookie preseason, also with Michael Strawn, Colts rookie, former 7th rounder out of Charleston. We didn't watch a ton of his tape.
We literally didn't watch any of his tape because I couldn't get any. It's like asking around, like, hey, can you get me Charleston tape? No, we don't even know. We don't even know where we'd start.
Who are you asking that just flat out said no?
Mike Parker.
Okay,
I believe the video guy here. He's like, I don't think it's happening.
No, we might have to leverage some relationships with Galco, Nagy.
I know in the future you're gonna have to. So 6'5", 224, 10 catches for 130 yards this preseason. The most contested catches of any rookie. 4. It's a big ass dude, and he's an athlete, like athletic. He's gonna get real deal playing time.
Right up Carson Wentz's alley.
He is going to be. He has very good ball skills for that size. Now, he still suffers from some of the issues you see from bigger wide receivers in terms of getting off the line, separating. But I like the way he was physical. Like, he knows he's 225. He's not playing like a 200-pounder. He's not trying to shake guys. He is trying to throw you off of him, and it's a good start. So, fan of what he brings to the table. And like I said, he's probably going to get some actual snaps as a rookie for this team.
Michael Strawn. Obviously, the success story out of Charleston, but we kind of skipped over Terrace Marshall, who we were talking a little bit. I mean, it's a deep receiving core with Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore there, but how he's been leveraged this preseason and the reunion with Joe Brady, I'd be really surprised if Terrace Marshall wasn't a consistent target in this offense. I think he's going to have a bigger role than maybe just looking at the depth chart would suggest, given that they have Robbie and DJ Moore there.
Well, so I think he's going to play the slot role, which is, the Joe LSU Brady offense, that was the hot commodity. It was who played. That was Justin Jefferson's. That's what actually Marshall did last year at LSU when he was on the football field. So I think he's going to do that. That's where he was when their first string offense was out this past week. He spent 17 of his 23 snaps in the slot. So he's going to be that guy, which again was the lead role in college. Now, maybe not so much in the NFL, but he did lead all rookies this preseason, 3.93 yards per route, 181 yards on 46 routes. I think he'll be, that's a tough wide receiver core to go up against. They're throwing a lot at you in terms of matchups to have to account for.
Is Terrace Marshall better than Jamar Chase? Are we ready to make that claim yet?
Oh, I mean, he's caught more balls. drop fewer. Yeah, I'll make that. No, I'm kidding. No, there's no way.
I'll make
better
that.
Than Jamar
Let's
Chase.
put it on. That's our quote graphic. For
The
this episode.
damaged Bengals fan in the booth is just not happy about it.
Yeah, that's Jamar's gonna be fine. Don't worry,
Relax.
guys. No one's
relax.
There's been 2 wide receivers whose careers have actually, I think, gone in the tank via drops. One was Braylon Edwards. I think he got the yips. Former Michigan wide receiver went to the Browns. The other, Greg Little. Is he with the Browns too? They all go to the Browns.
Greg Little was a former Bengal, bro. Come
Was he?
on, connect the dots. It's not looking good.
Maybe it's the Skyline chili, honestly. If that thing doesn't give you yips, it gives you something. It gives you something bad.
All that chili all over his hands. He's eating it.
It's that or clutch, which we know Jackson Carman is also all about. All right, tight end Kenny Yeboah, former Ole Miss tight end, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Caught a Hail Mary this past weekend.
You love to see
106
that.
yards. So tight
Giving the
ends.
Jets so much confidence that they're willing to trade Chris Herndon to the Vikings.
So Yeboah, the biggest reason for encouragement for me was how he looked as a run blocker. Issue at Ole Miss was more wide receiver than actual tight end. I think it looks solid. So 74.8 run blocking grade, blocked well on the move. I think he could actually, in that offense, start. That's obviously an offense that requires run blocking tight ends that will stick their nose in it. I think Yeboah did enough to show that he could actually see the field in that regard.
Offensive tackle Stone Forsythe, the former Florida offensive tackle, we highlighted him as a steal in the 6th round. And also Sam Cosmi, who you talk about run blocking, that's where he's been the most impressive. He has actually been moving people in the run game, getting up to the second level, showing off that athleticism for the Washington football team. And he's slated to start, if I'm not mistaken. He's going to start at right tackle for the football team. And Stone Forsythe already putting in good work as well.
Yeah, massive that Cosmi had. Looked competent this preseason. If he was a trash bag, it didn't matter. He was going to be thrown out there because Morgan Moses ain't walking through that door. So he's much better player than Sadiq Charles, in my humble opinion. I think he's firmly the right tackle there. You got Charles Leno on the left side. So Washington football team, offensive line, much maligned. Thought it could have been an issue. I think they will be solid enough this year. I think that's going to be a competent offensive line. Stone Forsythe, not going to start for Seattle, but looks like he could be a good swing tackle. So 75.3 overall grade this preseason. That's solid for a 6th round pick. That's hell more than solid for a 6th round pick. We said he was one of the steals of the draft. Now, again, like I said, I don't think he starts right away, but to have depth, to get depth at tackle that can actually see the field in the 6th round has to be chalked up as a massive win already.
A pair of day 3 interior offensive linemen highlight the 2 guard spots on the all-rookie team here. Jack Anderson, a 7th rounder for the Bills, and then Royce Newman, the former Ole Miss off the tackle kick into guard, and already playing well, 4th rounder for the Green Bay Packers. Both these guys playing above expectation. Royce Newman, especially with David Bakhtiari on the puppy, could be starting.
I think he's starting. I do think he will. He's been that
You okay
good.
with me saying on the puppy?
No, but whatever. What am I going to do? Can't stop you. Jack Anderson, though, had one of my favorite blocks the preseason. He took out Bears linebacker Josh Woods on a combo block, flat backed him. It was just caught him. I don't think he even saw him. Just caught him right on the back. Like one of those that you definitely get the wind knocked out of you afterwards. And you just you're sucking for air the whole next play.
The only time I've ever been flat backed was I was a sophomore in high school on varsity. And I was playing scout special teams, getting in practice. And the senior, I'll never forget this guy, Alex Manley, sees my jumbled ass just trying to figure out what I'm doing. Like it was like punt. It was on punt. I think I was playing. I don't even know what I was playing. Either punt return or punting.
The story's getting hot.
Yeah, and then he just completely fucking killed me, and I literally couldn't even breathe. Like it was so doing that against your own guy though. That's not even chill. But that's the story. That's my Austin Gales High School, which I know everyone came for. Center Creed Humphrey for the Chiefs, another guy that playing right where they need him to. Expected to now start for the Chiefs.
Yeah, and so his 75.6 run blocking grade, 83.7 pass blocking grade. Like he's playing the ones though. He's with the Chiefs' first team offense. He is their starter. All the more impressive in that regard. One of the most, I'd say he was the most NFL ready centers in this draft. Like he had been 3-year starter at Oklahoma, gone through it, was elite athlete testing wise. Like Chiefs got a good one. Like right out the gate, can't tell. You don't know where he's going to go eventually, but on a football field tomorrow, he won't be out of place.
Before we move to the defensive all-rookies here on the preseason team, the NFL is back, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is giving all new players a can't-miss offer for Week 1. Bet just $1 on any NFL game during the first week of the season and receive $200 in free bets instantly, no matter what. Take advantage of this limited-time offer now. You heard right. DraftKings is giving all new players $200 in free bets instantly when you place a bet of $1 or more on any Week 1 game. Head to DraftKings Sportsbook app now to check out all the great promotions and daily odds boosts. Plus, you can make every game a big game with same-game parlays. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code PFF to receive $200 in free bets when you place a $1 bet on any Week 1 game. That's promo code PFF to get your free $200 in free bets instantly. For a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 years or older in New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Indiana, a 1-800-9-WITH-IT. Oh, my favorite DraftKings bet or DraftKings update. They took offensive rookie years bets off right when Mac Jones was named the starter and Cam Newton was released. And then he was plus 1,000 before they took it down.
Yeah.
Now he is plus 600 to win offensive rookie
year. He leapfrogged Zach Wilson.
He did leapfrog Zach Wilson. Right now it's Trevor Lawrence at plus 350. Then Mac Jones at plus 600. And then Trey Lance and Zach Wilson are still both tied at plus 750. I don't understand how there's that much value on Wilson, who is a known starter, versus Trey Lance, who likely is not starting in San Francisco. But go to DraftKings and place that bet. You could do it. You could definitely do it. All rookie team defense, starting with the two defensive interiors, Levi and Wuzurike, our guy, also big friend of the pod for the Detroit Lions, playing well, and also Christian Barmore, another PFF favorite, standing out for the Patriots.
Yeah, this is a well done NFL sort of moment. These were DT1 and DT2, I believe, in this past year's draft. So
well done, PFF.
They were. No, we actually didn't have the DT1, DT2. We had McNeil, who also played well. Lee McNeil looked good for the Lions. But we kind of talked about Barmore and Wuzurike in the last 2 weeks of shows. When Wuzurike looked much stronger than we saw him at last time he was on the field, 2019 Washington, and Barmore, pass rushing prowess, it's still there. Encouraging signs for both.
For edge, Kwity Paye, who has done it against some backup offensive linemen, but he's done it well. A 94.2 overall grade, the former Michigan edge, now playing for the Indianapolis Colts. Also, a friend of the pod. Can I say this? All of these but Christian Barmore, I guess, are friends of the pod. Kwity Paye, Levi Wuzurike, and Joe Tryon all joined 2-for-1 Drafts podcast, but they're part of the Tailgate family. So Joe Tryon is the other rookie edge here. He has looked like a completely different player. So I was watching a lot of his pass rushing snaps, and then I went and watched his run defense separately. Him chasing on the backside of runs was like, I know those aren't like always the otherworldly impressive plays, but he is so explosive, so fast down the line. He's oftentimes making a ton of plays on the backside of runs, which is, I think, something that's super impressive.
Yeah, we've talked about these. So these, I'll even lump in, here we go, Kwity Paye, Joe Tryon, and Micah Parsons at linebacker we'll talk about next, who makes the all-rookie team. Physically, like we talked about those guys as being, elite athletes coming out of college. They still look like, even on NFL fields where everyone's faster, the game's faster, they look like they're still on a different level. And now it's not too surprising. Parsons, Paye, all-time pro day performances. Like they were all-time sort of athletes, but it doesn't always sort of the speed of the game, the way you play doesn't always,
especially with the pro day inflated numbers and stuff like that. Some people were second guessing some of that, but
they look like different dudes. All three of those guys from day one here, that they will be producing in some way, shape, or form. And Parsons, especially, like that guy, he could be a top 5 linebacker this year. Parsons,
that's like, a quote graphic. Social team's coming.
He's just still shedding blocks the same way he did at Penn State, where it's just like, it's second nature. He's just going around a block and he's not even thinking about the fact that a block's coming at him and he's off you. And it's because he's, 250 pounds and he's running a 4.35 at you. That's why, it's because he's just such a different athlete.
I do think rookies playing with confidence in the preseason is a sight for sore eyes, because you didn't see rookies playing with confidence a ton last year.
Yeah.
There was not a lot of rookies. Like, I think the biggest example for me was Patrick Queen. Like, Patrick Queen was not as confident and so much more reactionary than he was instinctive in his year one. I mean, you could say that about any of the linebackers last year, though. Like, it was just harder to be confident because of all the install over Zoom and the COVID impacted season, et cetera. But moving forward here, Elijah Sullivan, did the San Francisco 49ers find another hidden gem at linebacker, or are they just developing talent?
I think it's a combination. They know their scheme and what fits, and it's just guys who can move. It's like basically they give them that freedom, and guys who are. So Elijah Sullivan, for those who don't know, Kansas State linebacker, 6 foot, 215. Hand up, we didn't even scout him. He did not grade well back at Kansas State. He had a 60.7 overall grade this past season, 2020, 65.3 the year before that. Those are his only 2 as a starter at Kansas State. Undersized, whatever. He earns a 90.7, I believe, overall grade this preseason. Targeted 10 times coverage, didn't allow a single first down. Now, I don't think he has necessarily a path to the football field, but he did enough to make that roster as UDFA.
On to
and I think he made the
cornerback.
roster, correct? I'd be floored if he didn't.
I think you should double check that.
I should.
You got a cuts tracker on PFF.com. Cornerbacks, I'm going to read off all 3. Nate Hobbs, 5th rounder out of where? The Fighting Illini. That's where Brett Bielema's house. Coach of the Year candidate. One of the best tailgate spots so far this year. Nate Hobbs for the Las Vegas Raiders, grading out really well at 5th rounder out of Illinois.
Wait, literally the only tailgate spot this year.
Sorry. It's the best for now.
Yeah.
Might beat out Columbus. Who knows? Cornerback Patrick Surtain didn't play a ton, but man, did he look good. I think the other part of that too is, he just looks so pro ready. And then the nickel, talk about players playing with confidence. Elijah Molden, rookie out of Washington, playing slot for the Tennessee Titans. Dude is playing out of this world. That freaking Tampa Bay Buccaneers game was otherworldly.
Friend of the pod.
Elijah Molden. Also a friend of the pod. Surtain too. Patrick Surtain and Elijah Molden both on the 2-for-1 draft /tailgate podcast.
Yeah, Surtain, Molden, we don't need to talk too much more about them. We've pumped their tires enough. Molden looks like you're starting slot there in Tennessee. Surtain, the dude's got to start.
Give me the Hobbs love.
You got a lot. But Hobbs, I think he's going to be your starting slot.
Really?
I think he ends up, you got Nevin Lawson there, probably your slot, maybe Meek Robertson. He played very well in that role. Now, maybe not. Maybe I could be blowing smoke, but man, 90.7 overall grade, 30 of those snaps coming outside, 27 of those snaps coming from the slot, picking a pass break against the Rams, is a high level athlete. I think he went 4.4 with like a 40-inch vert at his pro day. I want to say he's something that they were missing in that
Talent?
secondary. Athlete. There are a lot of athletes. So we shall see. But
That's
yeah,
actually
so
good.
You went 4.48, 40.5-inch vertical, 11.3 broad. And, you can fake 40s all you want. You can't fake verts and broads at pro days. Those are real deals.
You can't fake verts and broads. Last 2 here on the All-Rookie preseason team. Safeties, Andre Cisco of the Jacksonville Jaguars, also former Syracuse safety, also a former PFF favorite. And then Jamar Johnson, the Indiana safety, who we had on this podcast. Our guys. Yeah, Denver Broncos, now on the Denver Broncos, also a friend of the pod.
Two forced incompletions, 69 coverage snaps for Jamar Johnson, only allowed 3 of 5 targets for 22 yards. Now, there's not really a path to the field. They got entrenched safeties there in Denver, but hey, job well done for him whenever he does get called upon.
5th round pick. That secondary is loaded.
It really is. And now Andre Cisco, I was most impressed with. He was doing a lot of his work from the box. He had a 76.5 run defense grade this preseason. He didn't give a shit about run defense at Syracuse. He was trying to make plays in coverage with that. He saw it was a run. He's like, please don't get through the second level, was his kind of mindset. But now you're in the NFL, you got to make that shed. You got to get that second contract. The dude is putting in work in that regard. So he's your starting safety there, one of them.
I love the shout outs from Quinn about friend of the pod. I think that's a great piece. 2, Jamar Johnson, 7 total tackles this preseason. What? No missed tackles. I remember the biggest thing for him was missing tackles and taking some poor angles. But that is the all-rookie defense team. You can check out that article on PFF.com. On to the next one. Before we do so, have to shout out our guys, Home Field Apparel. I'm wearing the shirt right here. Home Field Apparel is a new partner of the Tailgate Podcast. Home Field Apparel is a premium collegiate clothing brand out of Indianapolis. Incredibly comfortable, officially licensed apparel with vintage college designs. Home Field is in the middle of Big News Saturday, Season 2, where they launch a new school collection on every Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern for 16 weeks straight. This is a fun one. They just released Georgia, Wisconsin, and Florida. But this Saturday, and I think this gear could be sick, North Carolina Tar Heels this Saturday for Home Field. I am a big fan of the shirts. I think the crew necks are sick. I'm waiting for them to come out with some hats. We need some Home Field hats. I'm a big hats guy. Use promo code PFF to get 15% off your first purchase at homefieldapparel.com. That is promo code PFF, 15% off. Get ready for college football tailgate season. We're on to the 2021 breakout candidates. We have this by position. Let's start with quarterback. I love this take.
And this is what I'm basing this off of what I saw in preseason. And now
dangerous game.
And I'm not saying these guys, some of them aren't even necessarily slated to be getting that much playing time or being that guy in their respective teams. But I think based on what I saw this preseason, they will earn said playing time as the season goes on. Number one quarterback, it is Tua Tagovailoa, and obviously he's slated to be the starter. And the confidence he played with, night and days from as a rookie. And I think I said it on maybe the Monday pod when I was like, he looks like every snap now, like his best drives from last year. His best drives from last year is just him at every snap. He had drives last year where it was like throwing guys on breaks, unafraid of pressure, moving in pocket, scrambling when he needs to, but like making plays. That looked like that was every drive for him this preseason, was just at least that confidence. And now that didn't go great every single drive for him, but you at least saw him looking like the guy we saw at Alabama. And the takes that came after his rookie season, some of them irresponsible. They were irresponsible to put that much pressure on a guy who was coming off of not only an injury, but a literal career-threatening injury. Didn't know his career was in jeopardy. Didn't know if he was ever going to play the game of football again. The mindset that, like, the fact that he had some issues as a rookie with his confidence, with his consistency, is very forgivable. So I expect a breakout season from him. Now, the offensive line could prevent that, and it is not a good offensive line there. But I think Tua Tagovailoa
have to hope
looks much better.
I know the offensive line is good. You have to hope there's some steps forward with some of these young guys. It's such a young offensive line. And Austin Jackson hasn't taken
I will say Liam Eichenberg looked really good. I think he'll be good. You have guys there that do look good. I
Robert
think
Hunt,
interior will be solid. It's your tackles that I worry about.
Man, this preseason is 75.9 PFF grade for Tua Tagovailoa and 80.6 adjusted completion percentage on a relatively high average depth of target, 8.0 average depth of target, and also got the ball out relatively quick, 2.68 seconds time to throw. Talk about confidence, anticipatory throwing. The offensive line could be a death knell, but adding Will Fuller and Jalen Waddle to this offense is going to add some spark that I don't think their receiving core had. And that defense, I think, is going to put him in good situations. I think Miami.
He has guys that will be open. Those guys.
A lot of radio hits I'm going on are asking me, what's a playoff team that didn't make it last year but will make it this year? I think Miami's a nice pick. I like Miami bouncing back. They were like a late season collapse away from making it last year.
They literally, they had 11 wins last year. It's not that hot take.
I didn't think it was a hot take.
It's nice. It's a good call.
So. Yeah, it's a good call. Yeah. What preseason team? What do you got to be a dick about like that for?
Well, I mean, like usually if you want a preseason team that wasn't. It's like, oh, give me an off the beaten path one. Give me someone no one's talking about.
Bengals. I should have said Bengals. I should have said Bengals.
Give me the
well, I like Tua Tagovailoa as a breakout too. I like the Miami Dolphins to make the postseason this year, even though that's a lukewarm, shitty, cold take, according to Mike Renner.
Just lukewarm.
Running back J.J. Taylor is your next breakout candidate.
Yes, sir.
I don't agree with this.
See, this is the one where I don't know if he has the path to the field, but for my money, he is the better player between him and James White right now.
James White?
Him and James White. For that James White role in that offense, which James White has had a monopoly on, obviously, because he's James White. That was stupid as hell. But for the James White role in that offense, for the receiving back position, J.J. Taylor was fucking great this preseason. 179 yards rushing on 23 carries, 6 broken tackles, and then as a receiver, add on top of that, he went 10 catches for 62 yards. Clowned. Who was the DB that he absolutely clowned?
That spin move.
I don't think I've ever seen a spin move that you didn't even touch him. There was probably like 3 yards between him and the dude after a spin move. It was J.J. Taylor, 5'6", 185. Very difficult to even touch in space. I think he starts getting snaps as, like I said, breakout candidate. And like I said, I'm basing this off of the preseason, so there weren't a lot of backs getting a ton of run who are other possible breakout candidates.
I think the elephant in the room, or maybe the mouse in the room with J.J. Taylor, for those who don't know, he's the New England Patriots back out of Arizona. Former undrafted free agent in 2020. He's 5'6", 185. Yeah. He's a small player, and that's where the path to the field also comes up. Maybe he is a better player than James White, but that size is tough to overcome.
Dean Lewis, similarly sized.
Maybe
got his breakout.
I think another player I'll mention that played well this preseason on limited snaps and is projected to be kind of in a committee role is Devin Singletary for the Buffalo Bills. I wouldn't necessarily say he's a breakout. I'm still agreeing. I'll stick with the J.J. Taylor, but still played well.
Yeah.
Wide receiver.
I'm sticking with the same team. I'm going Jacoby Myers. I think he is the best pure separator in that receiving group. He's going to play a ton in the slot, which, as we've seen in that offense, that's where Edelman raked. That's where Welker raked. Now, obviously, Moss was a different animal when he came there, but like that has been the targeted role in that offense. Jacoby Myers is going to be that guy, big catch radius, working the middle of the field. Where Mac Jones is, that's where he is. That's his bread and butter, is working that intermediate behind the linebackers. So I do think Jacoby Myers in for a big season, and we saw a hint of that this preseason.
Jacoby Myers, former undrafted free agent in 2019 out of NC State, 6'2", 203. It speaks to the big catch radius. I love him in the slot. Like his separation ability maybe is the best on New England, but I think where he's best is like getting into the middle of the field, identifying those zones.
He's not going to blow past you. He's not going to be getting open deep.
I think the comp I made for him was Jason Avant when we were coming out in the draft. But I think him owning the middle of the field and being that bigger player.
How tough is scouting? Jacoby Myers en route to be number one receiver. Kelvin Harmon, not even on the roster.
Former NC State receiver as well.
Harmon, more receiving yards this last year. The number one receiver at NC State, for 3 years there, was that fourth rounder? Or was he a little bit later on? Jacoby Myers is a UDFA. Now Jacoby Myers, like I said, going to be a number one, and Harmon not even on the roster.
Tight end, you don't have a breakout listed. No breakouts this year?
No breakout this year. There's from what I saw in the preseason, I thought Irv Smith was going to be that guy. Then he tears his meniscus surgery before the season. Probably not going to be, at least until he gets back. But based off what I saw preseason, there was no one that really stood out to me. So there you go.
TJ Hawkinson's been talked about as a big breakout candidate. People think he can enter the big three in terms of being top 10 in the NFL.
Well, he did have the third most yards in the NFL this year, so calling him breakout's a little,
Fair enough.
But it's good. I mean, I just thought he broke out, right?
Your two offensive linemen, Jordan Mailata and Kevin Dotson. Mailata, the tackle for the Philadelphia Eagles, and Dotson, second-year offensive lineman for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
So the crazy thing is, about in Philadelphia, I'm watching tape on Mailata and also Andre Dillard, former first-rounder, oft injured, missed all last season. And I watched Dillard, and I'm like, damn, he looks good. Dillard looks very good. And I watched Mailata, I'm like, yeah, Mailata's the better player here, which is wow. Mailata, obviously, the story, he was Australian rules football, seventh-rounder. Back in 2018, he's 6'8", 346. He looked like a top 10 to 15 offensive tackle in the NFL.
Wow.
This preseason. He's going to probably be that in 2021, I would say. So, Jordan Mailata, he was starter last year. Obviously, Jace Peters going down. Was solid, but he looks like a different animal this year.
Kevin Dotson, the interior offensive lineman guard for the Pittsburgh Steelers, a fourth rounder in 2020 from Billy Napier's Louisiana Raging Cajuns, has been very good this preseason, has played at a very high level, is one of the highest graded overall players, if not interior offensive lineman. He's played at a very high level. Dotson looking to be, I think you called him looking at he's playing like an all-pro Pro Bowl level.
Looks like he's playing a Pro Bowl level this preseason. 120 snaps, 91.1 overall grade. I would expect that to continue. He just looks like a Pro Bowl guard. I'd be like under control, moving dudes. Very comfortable in just what he does. I think he's breakout candidate for sure.
Moving to defense, talk about a comeback. Malik McDowell.
I know.
For the Cleveland Browns, and he made the roster.
Yeah.
Bouncing back this preseason, looking the part for Cleveland.
Yes. So Malik McDowell, Michigan State, 2017. He was a second rounder for the Seahawks.
Well, he's hyped up more than that too, though. He's a second rounder, but he was even talked about as like a legitimate talent.
Yeah, he was higher on the PFF draft board, fell to the second round for off-field considerations, which proved to be warranted. He gets in an ATV accident, doesn't play it down for the Seattle Seahawks, I believe. Then gets arrested, resisting arrest. There's a video online, mildly entertaining to watch. It's kind of an absurd video. Was like hammered out of his gourd, it would appear from my viewing. But now he's back. And just an absolute animal. Like looks like, so at his game at Michigan State he was like 295. He's like 6'6", 295. He's kind of a finesse player. Like he was swimming dudes, says he's trying to win with his length, long arms, whatever. He is just going through guys this preseason. And it did in every single game. Just resetting the line of scrimmage. I think he gets serious playing time there on that Browns defensive line. So 21st on the PFF draft board back in the day. So the talent was there. The between the ears was not.
Edge Marcus Davenport, we've talked about a ton in recent episodes. The New Orleans Saints edge, now a firm breakout candidate player that the New Orleans Saints trade 2 first rounders to go up and get. Marcus Davenport looking the part now.
Yeah, there's a lot of edge candidates, I'd say, that are in this breakout.
Alex Highsmith,
who's AJ Epinesa. We've talked about those dudes, but no one was quite as dominant as Marcus Davenport. 93.6 grade in 49 snaps this preseason between the Baltimore game and the Jacksonville game. He just was running through guys. And that's w'y you draft a guy who's 6'6", 265, runs 4.58. Because when they figure out how to bull rush correctly, and they figure out their hand placement, when they figure that out, I don't care who you are, it's difficult to anchor against a guy that big and explosive. It just is. And so that is, and that when you can't stop a bull rush, a guy will bull rush you every single time. So I think Marcus Davenport in for a year for the New Orleans Saints. Him and Cameron Jordan could be in the mix for top edge duo in the NFL.
Monster bounce back candidate after being a first rounder in 2020 for the Seattle Seahawks. Jordan Brooks, linebacker at Texas Tech, 6'1", 245. Well, that was a PFF grade that had a magnifying glass on it. A lot of Seattle Seahawks fans upset at where he was grading last year, a 50.0 grade in 2020, 29.4 coverage grade. But down the stretch, started to show up as a run defender, really showed up as a tackler. Now in this preseason, playing a lot better and looking to be the player they drafted. Yes,
I do think Brooks is about to be maybe not KJ Wright level good. KJ Wright in his prime was obviously great, but he made KJ Wright expendable with how good he's been this preseason and probably how good he was this offseason, why they never even signed KJ Wright. But 81.7 overall grade, 65 snaps. He's high end athlete. Like the guy is 245 pounds, ran the 4.5s at the combine. So we can cover ground and just watching him take on blocks, watching him come downhill, much more comfortable, look far more like the player we saw at Texas Tech. So that can be and they don't leave two linebackers. They keep two linebackers on the field all the time. They play with three linebackers, probably way too much, but they will not go fewer than that. So he will be on the field a lot this year.
Byron Murphy, a cornerback for the Arizona Cardinals, who they're desperately going to need to break out, is on this list as well. Malcolm Butler officially put on the retired/reserved list. Yeah. I think Daryl Worley was also released. They have a very shallow cornerback room. Obviously moved on from Patrick Peterson as well this offseason. But former Washington defensive back, someone we were really high on. I think he was our cornerback 1 in the 2019 NFL draft, went in the second round. The first pick of the second round, Byron Murphy, 5'11", 190. Only 23 years old. You have that highlighted in your notes here. I want to bring it up. Only 23 years old despite entering year 3. Yeah. This past season, a 64.7 PFF grade.
Yeah, this guy came out really young, redshirt sophomore, played mostly slots first couple seasons. He's going to be outside. He's going to be their kind of Chris Harris role where he plays outside base. 3 cornerbacks come on the field. He's the guy dropping down into the slot.
That's a hard role to play.
Hard role to play. But when he looked against Kansas City, at least, Byron Pringle and company, he was eating their lunch. Like when he was asked to play man coverage, he was all up over him. Had to pick a pass breakup in the preseason. I think he's going to be good. He looked like a different player. Looked far better than what we've seen from him in years past, with the obvious caveat of a lot of it was against Byron Pringle.
But also the number change, I think, is a factor.
Yes, that is. I had to highlight here too. He's number 7 now. Going back to that, you can't quantify that confidence.
You can't.
That
you honestly can't. The other thing I'll bring up is he's another guy we talked to in prior to that draft. He's one of my favorite interviews, a very cerebral player. I was really surprised that he started out as slow as he did, only a 48.3 grade as a rookie and 64.7 in his second season in the NFL. But bounce back candidate, I'm excited to see it. Safety, Amani Hooker, another PFF darling. A guy that we really liked coming out of Iowa, an 81.7 grade so far this year, looking the part for Tennessee.
Yeah, so he's going to be the most primarily boxed, I believe. I would just spitballing as an outsider's perspective. I think he's going to be mostly boxed. That's where he's comfortable. He can play in the run game. 76.1 run defense grade this preseason. 81.7 overall grade. A very good tackler. 210 pounds. Solidly built dude. Can even drop down and play a slot with Kevin Byard being your deeper guy. Free safety, roaming, that sort of thing. Really liked what I saw from Hooker. I believe that this could be a very solid safety tandem. If he has a breakout year 3 here, that Titans defense might not be all that bad. Like we kind of shit on for some of the offseason. I think that for what they did at cornerback, just kind of eschewing that position altogether, just releasing their starters from a season ago. But I think it could be. I like the way it's kind of coming together.
They have what? Christian Fulton there, the former LSU cornerback, starting on the outside, and the other corner. I'm blanking on the name who they have.
They signed Jackrabbit.
Janoris Jenkins there, the veteran at the opposite side. It'll be interesting. I think Caleb Farley, the first round or 2.
And then you have Miles not Miles. The safety that we just slot corner we just talked about.
I'm confused.
I mean, they got
Amani Hooker,
Elijah Molden. Sorry.
Elijah Molden. Oh yeah, duh, of course. Elijah, our guy.
I was thinking Miles Bryant, who just got cut by the.
Did he get cut by the Patriots?
Patriots, yeah.
He had a good preseason. Too small. Former Washington defensive back. Before we get to our last three segments of the day, Bus Watch, I fucked up, and first round lock. Bringing up Western and Southern, proud sponsor of the Tailgate Podcast. In these uncertain times, life is full of questions. Like, when should I start thinking about life insurance? However difficult these questions may be, Western and Southern can help you answer them. Backed by over 130 years of experience. Together, we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind. Western and Southern Financial Group, life insurance, retirement, and investments. Bus Watch. Player you're willing to declare a bust right now. A recently released player by the Detroit Lions. They tried to trade him. They couldn't get any takers. The number 43 overall pick in 2019, Jelani Tavai.
This one still blows my mind. Anytime someone says like, you don't work in the NFL, so you don't know. You think you know better than someone who works in the NFL. When Jelani Tavai got picked, I was fairly certain I knew. It was just the guy was not the athlete that wins in the NFL today at linebacker. Just wasn't. He ran like a 4.85 coming out of Hawaii. 43rd overall. The rumor was that they picked him, Bob Quinn and company, because Belichick liked him. I don't think Belichick liked him 43rd overall high. And if he did, he can go sign him now if he wants because he's gone.
Didn't like enough to trade for him.
Yeah. 32.1 overall grade last year in 2020. Derek Barnes, I got tweeted out, has made more impressive plays this preseason than Jelani Tavai did in his entire NFL career.
And Derek Barnes, rookie out of Purdue?
Not hyperbole. Rookie out of Purdue. He should start there. I don't know if he's going to, but he should start there. He's a much, much better player.
Go ahead.
And in the same mold. Like in the same mold, too. He is the athlete that, though, you can win with in that mold.
The I fucked up segment here.
Here we go.
Are you ready?
I think it's confident that I did fuck this up. Now, is it completely... I'm not writing this guy off.
This isn't Bust Watch.
This isn't Bust Watch. This isn't... I'm not willing to go that far. But I can confidently say that for having Andrew Thomas OT1 last year, that I fucked up. 48.5 pass blocking grade this preseason. So a lot of the same issues we saw last year. Tristan Wirfs, comfortably a better tackle. Mekhi Becton, comfortably a better tackle. Jedrick Wills, comfortably a better tackle. I said, though, I will say, in my defense for this, I fucked up. At the time, in the Giants' shoes, I said, trade back and pick whichever one falls to you. Because there wasn't a big difference. We had Andrew Thomas at 8 in the board, Tristan Wirfs at 9. Jedrick Wills at 11.
It's a great tackle class.
It was a great tackle class. So if you can get anything, you can get a third rounder. And it always says it takes two to tango. Well, you can flip back you can go way under the chart and still get something if you're going to draft one of those tackles, which, shit, in retrospect, I wish you would have had not times. But yeah, like Tristan Wirfs is the one that you should have drafted in that class.
I'm going to add my own I fucked up. I remember on this podcast saying Marvin Wilson is the player people think the Auburn, I'm missing his name now.
Derek Brown is, which is completely false. Marvin Wilson looked like ass this preseason. What happened to Marvin Wilson? He's never an athlete, a former 5-star, but never the athlete you need him to have success. But that 2019 campaign, pre-COVID, we had him on this show. He battled some weight issues. I don't think he had a single pressure for the Browns this preseason. Really struggled even as a run defender, was released by the Cleveland Browns. He had the highest contract of any UDFA.
He was the most sought after of any UDFA.
There had to be some injury, something, or whatever, because he wasn't like, I don't care how like bad he played in the NFL. Like he wasn't that bad in college, like to where he was a UDFA. There were far worse players. There had to be some medicals on him that just people didn't want to touch that are still affecting him.
Yeah. I mean, because in 2019, I believe he was one of the highest graded pass rushing defense tackles in the country.
Yeah.
And then has fallen off so far.
Yeah. It's like we weren't the only ones who were high on him after 2019, but then he just looked like a different player after that.
First round lock, last segment here. To recap, we're going to do this segment every single week. And you are. Until the draft.
No.
Oh.
Until the
Until the draft would be kind of absurd.
National championship game. There's literally more than 32 weeks until then.
So
we got 21 weeks from when I started last week till the national championship game. 21 players that I'm going to declare first round locks.
I love it. First one you declared
was Derek Stingley. This week, we're going Kayvon Thibodeau of Oregon. going out on a limb.
I love it.
But I'm ready to block it in. Kayvon Thibodeau is our second first-round lock, the Oregon edge defender. If you don't know about him and you're listening to this podcast,
did you consider any other names here?
There's names I got in my back pocket, but that's for next week.
Yeah, you gotta save it. And I think you have to save QBs too. QBs.
The segment will get more interesting about 10 weeks from now.
That's why the segment. We should probably skip past the segment pretty quickly here. Yeah. Kayvon Thibodeau and Derek Stingley, the only 2 first-round locks through 2 weeks of this segment. Let's now jump to our interviews. I got Washington football team running back Jaret Patterson on this interview. He didn't know if he was making the roster. He officially makes the roster. They released Peyton Barber, creating room for the rookie out of Buffalo. And then Cal head coach Justin Wilcox, what I thought was awesome. He talks a lot about defensive back play. He was a former defensive back at Oregon. They have a loaded secondary there at Cal. 2 really fun interviews to get to. Let's get it. Now joining Tailgate Podcast is current Washington football team and former Buffalo back Jaret Patterson, a monster this preseason, standing at, even at just 5'7", 5'8", depending on which roster you look at. You have been fantastic this preseason as a rookie undrafted free agent for the Washington football team. It is an honor to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Before we focus in on, obviously, the impact you've had on Washington this preseason, I kind of want to turn back the clocks a little bit. For the people that don't know, Jaret Patterson was a monster at Buffalo, and specifically over the past 2 years. He had 7.7 yards per carry in 2020, 5.8 in 2019. But I think everyone knows you for the 409-yard, 8-touchdown performance against Kent State, where I want to ask you where to start is when you were going through that game, did you expect to have the numbers that you did? And I guess when you were totaling 200, 300 and getting close to that 400 mark, I guess what was going through your head and talk me through that performance overall?
Yeah, just that day was just very special, just how I feel like it just, laid out, I wore the number 41 that week and, in the program. 41 means a lot, a fallen teammate that passed, Solomon Jackson, and the coaches picked a person to wear that number for the game, and they picked me. And I could say I definitely represented him and his family very, very well, and everything was clicking. The offensive line was doing a great job, and I just noticed, after 6, I'm like, man, I just stopped counting, and then I'm like, I just know I had a lot of touchdowns, a lot of yards, and I just wanted to close out the game, because they beat us the previous year late, and I just wanted to, kind of just put the game away, and that was just my mindset going to that game.
Well, you put the game away, my friend, for sure. And then obviously transitioning to Washington, you're an undrafted free agent. And I've read, reading some of the reports, Chase Young, childhood friend, was the guy talking to Ron Rivera saying he's got to sign you. He's got to bring you to Washington. Speak to the relationship you have with Chase Young and how things have fared so far, teaming up with him in Washington.
Yeah, I've been knowing Chase since middle school, since 8th grade. We've been tight throughout the draft process, giving me advice and just asking, what team's been reaching out, and just in the draft kind of day 3, he was saying, man, just be patient, and he kind of vouched me, like you said, to Coach Rivera, and I ended up at Washington, the home team, the team I grew up rooting for. I'm from PG County, Maryland area, so I feel like it's been everything but good, and it's headed in the right direction, and it's just a blessing to be here.
As an undrafted free agent, what has kind of been your approach to this offseason? I guess every single day, every single practice, what have you been prioritizing, whether it's playbook, on-field, strength and conditioning? Where have you prioritized most of your efforts?
I feel like kind of a little bit of everything. When I even made the jump to declare, my mindset was it's not how you get in the NFL, it's how you stay in. So that's the mindset I kind of carry, every single day. I'm just taking every opportunity, I get, just taking advantage of it, and just trying to just put my best foot forward to show coaching staff, I can be a guy at the next level.
You've also leaned on, I know, Maurice Jones-Drew, a guy who's kind of similarly built, a smaller, compact, former NFL running back, now an analyst with NFL Network, as a mentor. What has he taught you, or I guess shown you, in the time that you spent with him?
Yeah, he's taught me a lot of stuff. Just to help me with my routine, and just really just told me, it's about just really once you figure out your routine, just keep perfecting it as the years go on.
How'd you come into contact with him, and I guess when did that all start?
For Maurice, we met through for the same age of sports group. You know, they represent both of us, the sports entertainment group. And, I met him training down the draft in Florida at Pete Bomarito's. And, we kind of just hit it off there. Him being an undersized back like myself, I kind of gravitated towards him. And he kind of, gave me advice and just told me, about the business and, just told me how to take care of my body, just be a student of the game. And like I said, learn that routine and just sticking to your routine and just really just being a pro.
So obviously, Maurice Jones-Drew, Chase Young have both have had a positive impact on your NFL career thus far. Who else would you say has helped you out the most, whether it's the coaching staff or other players, since you've got there down in Washington?
I feel like, those two, my team, like the sports entertainment group, kind of helped me and just put me in the right situation with Washington. And I feel like that those people just said, Chase Young, Maurice Jones-Drew, and those people really kind of helped me, making this transition easy.
How about the big guy, the starter, Antonio Gibson, a second-year player out of Memphis who was a monster last year and is expected to do really good things as the starter in Washington. Maybe you given an opportunity to back him up. What have you learned from him, another young player in this league that's having success?
Yeah, I've learned from a lot of guys, in the room. AG, like you said, Peyton Barber, JD McKisson, just all those guys, just how to be a pro. When I'm not taking a rep, I look at, what things, they did good or what things, I would have did differently and just learn. I just stay learning, from each and one of those guys that, kind of help my game.
Last one for you, Jaret, and I'll let you go. Really appreciate the time. You've been through a lot of adversity, undrafted free agent, told multiple times, too fat, too short, too slow, whatever it may be. Now you're in this rare position, unique position to legitimately make this 53-man roster and have a prominent role as a rookie. Just how, and you grew up a diehard Washington football team fan. Just how much would this mean to you to get that opportunity with Washington, to be on this 53 and have a prominent role as a rookie?
Yeah, it would mean a lot, it would mean everything, like I always said, I had the mindset, it's not how you get in, it's how you stay in, but it would mean a lot, to have a good, carve out a nice role and whatever I can do to help the team, obviously. And like I said, I'm just blessed to be here.
Fantastic stuff, Jaret. Really appreciate the time.
Thank you so much.
Now joining the Tailgate Podcast is current Cal head coach Justin Wilcox. I love that you're based out there in Berkeley. I'm a former Bay Area guy. I talked to a lot of coaches on here. I talked to Clay Helton down in USC. These people are experiencing better weather than me, but I'm glad we're able to get you on the show, and I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, it's good to be with you.
Let's start with this secondary here, specifically Josh Drayden, the slot cornerback there. He's really high on Pro Football Focus's radar, has had a ton of success in that role in recent years, offers a veteran presence to the Golden Bears. How important is Drayden to the success of this secondary and even this defense as a whole?
Yeah, very. You mentioned it. Josh has played a lot for us, and he's played outside corner, but really does a great job at the nickel spot, our slot corner position or our nickel. And Josh has played a lot. He's got a ton of experience. He's a very instinctive guy. He's very coachable. And I think he's primed and ready for a great season.
Yeah, you have a lot of other talent in the secondary there at Cal. Daniel Scott and Chiggy Anuzium, Elijah Hicks. What are your expectations for this group? And I guess, do you feel this is an obvious strength for this Bears team?
Yeah, I like this group. I think with Josh and Elijah, who have played a lot, Daniel Scott and Chiggy have both last year played more and more and have really put their time in. They're more experienced, maybe not the same number of banked game reps as Josh and Elijah, but have been here a while and know our system. And then there's some younger players that I'm really eager to see. At the safety position, Miles Williams and Raymond Woody, they're both going to play this Saturday. And then at corner, I think Colin Gamble is a young player that we're really excited about, and he'll play quite a bit for us. Outside, he could also play some nickel at times, but some young players in there that are really eager to get on the field, and I'm excited to watch.
You're a former defensive back yourself, played defensive back at the University of Oregon in the late 90s. I've talked to some other coaches about what they feel is the most coachable or the areas in the secondary where you can most improve with coaching. And then also, what are these other areas where it's kind of a prerequisite, what has to be kind of God-given to be good at cornerback or even safety?
Yeah. The God-given things are obviously your height and your frame.
Yeah.
And, we had a couple different examples. Chiggy, for example, is a 6'1", 200-pound corner. He's got long levers. He's high cut. And so he's built, genetically with some really good length. And, that allows him to do some things at the line of scrimmage and be more aggressive using his length at the line of scrimmage and press coverage and things like that. So that's a hard thing to teach. You can't teach a guy to be tall. The long speed and the agility, both those things, when guys get moving down the field, especially on the outside at the corner positions, do they have enough long speed? I think that can be incrementally improved. You don't usually, take a slow guy out of high school and make him fast. I think it can be increased, marginally. I think there's an element in terms of the instinct playing the ball. And some guys have a really good feel for that. And some guys struggle with it a little bit more. And it's another one of those things I think you can improve, marginally. Maybe you go from a 5 to a 7 in terms of your instincts and ball skills, but you traditionally don't go from having 0 instincts to having great instincts. So those are the areas I think, you talk about God-given. But I don't want it to make it sound like you limit yourself when you talk about height and weight. There's different corners who play really well who aren't 6'1". They're 5'10". They're quick twitch, and they have another redeeming quality. I think Josh Drayden's an example of that. Josh is not the tallest guy in the world, but he's got twitch and he's strong and he's got really good instinct. So he can play corner. He's got to play it a little bit differently than, say, Chiggy does. And he can do really some good things in the nickel spot. So I think Josh Drayden and both he and Colin Gamble are very similar in that regard. The things that you can coach, I think obviously the technique part of it, footwork, hand placement, eye control, I think those things can really be improved. And I see a couple of our younger players, especially these freshmen who come in, really just have played the game on sheer athleticism and now are learning how to utilize their physical tools to make them more complete players. And I think you see the really a good amount of growth in the first couple of years when you're teaching the fundamentals of playing that position. So I think there are certainly things that can improve. I also think to your point, there are things that when you're talking about just the height, weight, the twitch and long speed, and then the instinct for playing the ball that I think you can improve, but I think on a marginal basis.
You've had a unique opportunity to work with a lot of different coaches in your coaching career, Boise State, Tennessee, Washington, USC, and Wisconsin. Speak more to your defensive philosophy. I know it's a high percentage of what we see as very well executed cover 3. It's obviously a schematic principle, but what are some other themes or even philosophical principles that you prioritize on defense?
I think, everybody's going to say this, but I believe it. And we act on it daily. It's a fundamental game. So you're talking about footwork, hand placement, how to strike blocks if you're a front player, how to play with good technique and coverage. So people talk about, going back to basics, and you hear that a lot in the bye week and, fall camp. Well, we really try to go back to basics every day. I mean, we spend a lot of time on individual and technique, and we spend a lot of time on tackling and emphasizing great tackling technique. And so it's a fundamental game in that regard. And we're going to always make sure that we're not going to sacrifice the fundamentals to put in a new blitz, for example. I do believe for us being multiple in our fronts and coverages, trying to make the other team hunt what you're doing and not let them line you up. I mean, offenses are so good. There's so much skill on offense these days, and the coaches are so good that if they can just line you up and they know you're in over quarters, well, you better be damn good physically. Yeah. I mean, you better have really good players to be able to just line up. They know what you're in, you know what you're in, and may the best man win, So I think, balancing that. So having enough in our arsenal, and we do that in spring ball and do it in fall camp. We're not creating things throughout the week, but we have to have enough of a menu to make it harder for the offense.
And that balance, just to kind of add a comment there, that balance of chasing disguise or multiples with also teaching the fundamentals is probably just the hardest thing to do. You know, like that's that hard balance to strike on the defense side of the ball. That's really interesting to hear you say. Another defense player I wanted to highlight was Kwani Dang, who I read somewhere making the move from inside to outside linebacker, returns for his 6th season at Cal, another veteran presence to help you on that defense. How excited are you to have him back at Cal?
Oh, big time. You know, Coin, and it's Coin. Just
Coin. That's on me.
Yeah,
that's
Coin,
on me.
That's all right. Coin and both he and Cameron Good are 2 outside linebackers. So they play our outside linebackers in 3-4, and they're our edge players in our 4-2-5 nickel stuff. But Coin is a talented guy. He's played inside linebacker, as you mentioned, played it well and was very productive there. We felt like both for him and our team, it would be best for him to play outside. And so he's made really a seamless transition there. He's the tangible things. I mean, he's 6'6" and 240 pounds. He's tough. He's very smart, and his transition has been very smooth and not surprising. Just knowing what type of kid he is. He also provides unbelievable leadership for the team. I mean, he was a JC transfer, and within a year, he's a team captain. I mean, he's a highly regarded member of the team by everybody, from the coaches to the players to the people that work in the building. He just has a really special character, and so we expect big things from Coin. And as I mentioned, him and Cameron Good, who's done some really nice things in his career here, we feel really good about that position.
A couple more questions for you, Coach, before I let you go. Really appreciate the time. I'm going to shift focus a little bit to the offense side of the ball. I know we focus a ton on defense, but expectations for Chase Garbers, the quarterback at Cal, and Bill Musgrave entering year 2 together. I know it's probably very difficult for Garbers and Musgrave to hit the ground running with obviously the COVID-impacted Pac-12 season, a lot of install over Zoom calls and those things. How much has their relationship improved? And if you could speak to expectations for that duo.
Yep. I think, as you would expect, being in person for since January, talking about off season and then spring football, summer meetings, summer workouts, fall camp, that's been invaluable. Last year, I thought, Chase did the best job he could, as did Bill, with some really unique circumstances, not only for us out west, but also here specifically at Cal with some of the restrictions that were placed on us. I think those guys did a nice job trying to work through a difficult situation. I think Chase has played a lot for us, as you know, and has had some really good moments. And now it's about, performing consistently at a very high level. And I know he has high expectations for himself, as do we. I think we're, more complete around him in terms of the skill positions, the offensive line. And I think Chase is primed for a really good year, and his relationship and understanding of the offense is significantly improved from where it was a year ago.
Fantastic stuff, Coach. I apologize for some of the name mispronunciations. I appreciate you helping out there, but I'm glad we were able to get you that drink of water as well. This has been a fantastic interview, and I really appreciate the time. Best of luck this upcoming season.
All right. Thanks, Austin. Go Bears.
That's going to do it for the Tailgate Podcast. This is a loaded episode, Mike. Loaded episode. Tomorrow, make sure you send in your questions, your Thursday trivia questions, and your mailbag questions for the Thursday episode. You can follow PFF_tailgate and send a DM there, or leave an Apple Podcast review. Until next time, Austin Gayle, Mike Renner, producer Max Chadwick, Mike Quinn, Tailgate Podcast.